Ladies and gentlemen, I am Professor Diener, a stroke neurologist from the Department of Neurology at the University of Essen in Germany. And this month I have two studies out of the field of stroke, and they both have relationship also to the field of cardiology. The first study was a study that was done in the United Kingdom, and this study recruited 8,000 patients with relatively mild ischemic strokes, and they randomized them into three groups. One group received oxygen for 7 continuous days. The second group received oxygen on 3 consecutive nights, and the third group was the control group. I don't think it's a big surprise for you to learn that oxygen had no impact on outcome. The outcome was measured with a modified ranking scale, which measures the severity of stroke and functional impairment in everyday clinical life. So what was wrong with the study? Well, the majority of patients had a normal oxygen saturation. And using oxygen in someone who has normal oxygen saturation, I don't think is not very promising. Now, this study replicates what has been recently published in acute coronary syndromes, where patients who received oxygen had the same outcome that patients who were not treated with oxygen. So most probably the only group of patients who would benefit are patients with COPD or patients who have other causes of having reduced oxygen saturation. The other study was unfortunately an underpowered study, but at least it gave us a trend. There is still an open question. If someone has a significant cardiac stenosis and has to undergo coronary artery bypass surgery, whether the carotid artery, whether it's symptomatic or asymptomatic, should be operated simultaneously or consecutively. And this was addressed in a study in Germany that was funded by the German Research Council. The study was originally powered to recruit more than 400 patients, but unfortunately, due to poor recruitment, the study had to be terminated after 129 patients. But what the study showed was that the 30-day risk of stroke or death was about almost 20% in the patients who underwent simultaneous surgery, and it was around 10% in patients who had a staged procedure, first cardiac endarterectomy and then CABG. I'm aware that the study is underpowered, but at least it gives us a hint that most probably staged surgery is more promising. Why was it almost impossible to recruit patients into the study? Very simple reason. Whenever a cardiac stenosis was identified in a cardiology department, it was immediately stented. And when the patients came to the cardiac surgeon, the cardiac artery was already stented, so they couldn't be randomized. But at least I think it gives us a hint how to do in people with significant cardiac stenosis who have to undergo CABG. So, ladies and gentlemen, a negative study, like in coronary heart disease, oxygen is not really useful in acute ischemic stroke, and a second study which would indicate that it really makes sense to first operate or stent the cardiac artery and then do CABG and not simultaneously. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Professor Diener, a stroke neurologist from Essen in Germany. Thank you very much for listening.